Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, glad you're back on the Investigative Journal, and you know who this is. It's Greg Anthony here again on this Thursday, June 22nd, 2017 day on our calendar. And boy, do I have a treat for you today. I'm going to play an interview that I did with someone. I'm going to tell you in a minute, way back, and you're going to enjoy it. And I'll get into what it is in a minute, but don't forget, I'm running a pledge drive this month. And most likely next month, or until I can raise some money to keep this show alive. And you can go to www.arcticbeacon, that's ARCTICBEACON.com, and you can press the donate button. It goes directly to me. If you hit the First Amendment one, they do a lot of good for me, too. They put up my YouTubes and everything, but if you hit that, it goes to them. So I'm not saying that's not a good idea, but they got to have hosts on the show, too, and not just rich guys who can afford to do it for nothing. Okay? And those guys usually are like George Clooney, who just sold an interest into his tequila business for $1 billion. Now, when you shave off a lot of the stuff, he probably still got a nice, handsome son, but not enough for him. He's got to have it all. And let me tell you this. I am a capitalist. I really am. But there comes a time when you have to say, how much is enough? Okay, that's enough on that. I could get carried away all day. But you know what? Let's talk about something. Well, let's get back to the pledge drive. I got to say, you've got to go to www.arcticbeacon, that's ARCTICBEACON.com, and you can get shows going back over a decade, a lot of old articles. And, I'm looking for ways to do this. Oh, sure, I could start a few other small businesses. In fact, I was looking back, and I don't want to go into the restaurant business again. But anyway, what I was thinking was to revamp my website, and then I'll start another website on a blog I want to start that's going to fund this show. And so I contacted some Christian web builder, and he gave me a price of $2,400 for my website to be reconstructed, and $1,700 for a new website. Now, I thought these things I know these things are expensive, but I don't know if I could afford that. So that's one reason I'm running the pledge drive. You know somebody out there that can help me get a better price and do a great product. I'm not saying this guy doesn't do a good product. But anyway, that's what I'm up against. And let's see what we can do. So help me out. Go to www.arcticbeacon.com, and you can hit the donate button. It goes directly to me. Okay. In the old days, I used to have a lot of fun doing the show. And what I mean by that is I used to sit and write articles every day, have a little fun, and used to have fun with a character that I met named Slats Grobnik. Now, many of you don't know who he is. And he's been kind of dormant for a while. In fact, Slats called me the other day and said he'd been sleeping a lot lately. And I asked him how his project was going, and he said, well, it's about halfway complete. And I said, Slats, you said that 10 years ago. And he said, well, things are tough. I went through that recession. Brick and mortar cost a lot of money. People didn't donate anymore. And, I had enough to buy this little piece of property. Well, it was given to me partially by an old farmer who couldn't stand the New World Order. And so to protect the interests, and I told him I'd cut him in, Slats said he'd cut him in on half the business. But they had to build a huge covering so people didn't know what he was building. So he says he's back at it with the Trump administration there. They're giving incentives to builders. Trump's a builder. And so Slats is going to start building again. And I would ask, maybe if someone sends this program to Donald Trump, maybe he can invest in this. Okay, this project that Slats Grobnik is working on. And I think he can bring it in under budget, like he says, and on time or before time. And I think he'd love to get involved in this project. So why don't I recount something I wrote about Slats? Oh, I asked him, I said, Slats, how's your health? He said he's doing great. Happy in his little, he's in the Midwest. But anyway, he said that he was watching baseball. He comes from Chicago, my hometown, so he's been watching the Cubs a lot. Okay? Slats, I don't blame you. I check on them every day. They lost today 3-2 to the Padres, although they won the series 2-3. And now they're headed out for a long road trip. So Slats, you'll get a lot of... I said, where do you get the TV? He said, well, the farmer put up the satellite. I said, Slats, there are no satellites. He said, well, I mean, they call it satellite TV. And I know it's ground-based. But anyway, he said that. Well, anyway, let me go back to a story I wrote, because the story I wrote back in March of 2007 about Slats, because we had a long conversation then. He was watching basketball. And the headline I put on it was, Slats Grobnik, divinely inspired, begins rebuilding the Roman Coliseum in a Kansas cornfield. Wow. Don't you think Trump and his crew are perfectly situated, and they're together with Rome so deep that they could build this Coliseum or help get it financed and bring it in under budget? Come on, Donald. Why don't you help Slats build the Roman Coliseum? And let me give you what his idea is about. Now, I said freedom fighter Slats Grobnik, and that's exactly what he is, was sitting watching March Madness. I think that's all he really does, is watch basketball and try to build this Coliseum, after a hard day laying bricks and mortar on his project to rebuild the Roman Coliseum. I expected this to be done by now, but it's not. And the New World Order goes on and on and on. Georgetown, at that time, was playing Vanderbilt. Now, Georgetown, boy, you know what they're all about. They were in the Sweet 16 back then. And Slats couldn't help. This year, I think Gonzaga, another Jesuit university, was in the Sweet 16, or got to the finals, I think. Slats couldn't help provide his own commentary, mixing in a Vatican-led New World Order message in between the bouncing basketball. Here's what he said, I remember. He said, if these boys only knew who they were playing for, they'd walk off the court, said Slats, as the Hoyas hit a last-minute shot to win by a point, advancing to the Elite Eight. I bet every last one of them, would walk off the court if they knew the Jesuit hierarchy were the real spiritual controllers of the New World Order and were the real masterminds behind 9/11. You see what I'm telling you, what this guy's all about? For those readers unfamiliar with the saga of Slats that still goes on 10 years later, he is now busy building the Roman Coliseum in a Kansas cornfield, so when the New World Order thugs from Rome to America are finally rounded up, they can be used as gladiators. Wow, what an idea. And he said this, I plan to fill the seats with hundreds of thousands of Americans who can watch Bush and Cheney fight to the death, as well as Witch Hillary and Vampire Condi Rice go tooth and nail, said Slats. Wow, since he hasn't finished, and he says he's halfway done, look at who he could add to the gladiator list here. Wow. He could add, think of all the people since the time we talked 10 years ago, and now he could add, this could be a good show, couldn't it? Now, Slats, he arrived in Kansas. That was in 2006. That was 11 years ago? After leaving his Chicago home on a Don Quixote-type mission with the goal of freeing every last American from the bondage of the Vatican Jesuit-fueled New World Order. And with a stroke of luck, Slats' journey, it was stalled in Kansas when he met a patriot farmer who allowed him to use his cornfield to build his quote, field of dreams, so to speak. The project got off to a swift start with the help of the farmer's heavy equipment and building knowledge. It was recently stalled when President Bush back then, the Gestapo agents, I remember this, got wind of the project. and leveling it to the ground. Slats had to start all over. He didn't get too far. He was about 2 feet up on it with only a quarter of it, one of the round sides built, with another shock and awe campaign after Slats was about halfway finished. And I didn't put it in the article, but he got wind that they were raiding his little area, and he took off. But he came back, and now they don't worry about it. They got bigger fish to fry, so to speak. So after Slats emerged unharmed from one of the farmers' underground bunkers, he went into a state of depression for a better part of 2 weeks back then, vowing to go back to Chicago, where he planned to stick to only talking politics at Sam's Tavern. That's where he used to hang out. But one morning about a week ago, that was back in 2007, Slats woke up with a new purpose and a quite unbelievable surge of energy, knowing he could never go home again, even though Thomas Wolfe said that you could go home again, and just had to finish the Coliseum project if it was the last darn thing he ever did. And I remember him saying this to me, this humble reporter. Call it divine intervention, Greg, but something happened to me that night. The whole Vatican-led New World Order puzzle was revealed to me by God or someone, or our Creator. I think it just came right down to me. And this is what I must do before I continue on my journey to save America and alert the American people of the real beast. So ever since that divine morning, Slats worked as if he had the strength of 10 men. In fact, he worked so hard, he looked like 10 plow horses all wrapped up in this 5'8", 155-pound, mere mortal frame. And as he sat back watching basketball and thinking how the Jesuit order had even hoodwinked their Georgia basketball team, who had no idea of their devious and diabolical plans to destroy America, he looked over at the bookshelf in the corner of his small room. I remember this like it was yesterday. There on the shelf were 15 books he brought with him on his journey, all books having been banned by the Jesuits and the American miseducation system. And he said, while I rebuild this Coliseum, for this very important purpose, I will read every one of these books. I forgot to ask him if he did that in the last 10 years, which really are hidden history behind the Jesuit and Vatican controllers of the New World Order, said Slats. But let me first start with the Bible, as it is the one book the Vatican never wanted me to read when I went to the school when I was a kid. As Slats fell asleep while reading Revelations, he drifted to a place where all was good and evil was finally defeated. He drifted to a new America, an America without war, suppression, torture. And as he slept that night 10 years ago, dreaming of a better day, sounds of black helicopters, he said, could be heard in the distance, and we can only hope they weren't coming back to do in Slats once and for all. So anyway, I kind of got away from talking to him because I felt I didn't want to blow his cover, so to speak. But now that I heard from him 10 years ago, no, he's back on the project. We're going to keep up with it, folks. He's building the Roman Coliseum in some Kansas cornfield. And maybe, if Donald Trump is real and true, he'll come to his assistance. And if he doesn't, then we know he's just another one of the Jesuits, leaders of the world that are here to destroy us and tell us, oh, everything's so good, everything's so right. But anyway, let's keep an eye on Slats Grobnik. Okay, enough of Slats. I promised you a treat. Usually I start the interview at the half hour, but I'm going to go and give Barry Chamish a little bit more time, and he deserves it. He was Barry Chamish has passed away recently. He used to broadcast a Wednesday, I think, show on this network. And I met Barry years ago, over a decade ago, when he was being almost killed in Israel. He's one of the few Israeli journalists that was trying to tell the truth, and he had to get out of the country and ended up in Canada. I followed on my show his journey all the way to America, where he ended up in Florida. And then began, he has many books that he's written, and you can go to his website, barrychamish.com, that's CHAMISH.com, and you can get a lot of his shows. Now, Barry used to tell me the real inside story about what really goes on in Israel, how the Knesset is nothing more than, like our Congress, shills for the Vatican, and how the top leaders of the Israeli government are sold out just like the top leaders of the American government. So I thought it'd be good to go back and look at listen to Barry. This was one of the many, many interviews I did with him, and that was over the years. And in fact, I'm not sure, this one took place, I believe, in 2008. And let's get right to it. And hopefully the volume will be good, and let's see what Barry Chamish has to say. I'm sure you'll like it. And you know something? We really need to get down to the truth about Israel and what's going on, the Vatican's intentions to set up shop there. And we know that they entered into a contract in 1993, and they own the Temple Mount. Interesting how many things there are to discuss. Here's Barry Chamish when I talked to him on my show over a decade ago, or 9 years ago.
I'm doing fine, but your line is very fuzzy.
Can you hear me at all?
Distantly.
Good.
All right, well, let's do the best we can. And so you do most of the talking then. Go ahead. What's new on your plate?
Are we on the air?
Yeah.
What's new on my plate is that I made headlines in Israel last week. A judge has forced me to pay a Secret Service stinker, an agent, $10,000 because I have written that he's working for the Shabak, Israel's Secret Service, as if that's an insult. Now, the name of the the agent is Itamar Ben-Gvir, and we learn how they provoke people into incitement. That's what they do in Israel, using young kids who got in trouble. Now, I could go through some of the incitement that a person was involved in leading to this very day, but he was involved with someone named Avishai Raviv, who everyone in Israel knows was the Shabak agent who many people think provoked Yigal Amir to shooting Rabin, except Amir didn't do the actual shooting. But nonetheless, Avishai Raviv and Itamar Ben-Gvir were partners. And what they did is they worked settler kids. They had them arrested. They got them to conduct enormously imagine a young girl, in this case her name was Tatiana Suskin, handing out leaflets in Hebron showing Muhammad having sexual relations with a pig. That's incitement, and that was done by this group. Now, in the case of Yigal Amir, the patsy for Rabin's murder, I possess an enormous piece of evidence. I possess his actual police interrogation. I got it about 3 years ago. It's about 3 hours in length, and it's not the phony stuff they gave to the public. It's the real interrogation where Amir outright says that he didn't kill Rabin, that there was a plot to have a fake assassination and he was used, and he said the plot goes up to Shimon Peres. But more than that, on this tape he repeats twice that Itamar Ben-Gvir, the person who got the judgment against me, was supposed to go and shoot Rabin. He says this on the tape, that Avishai Raviv gave him a gun full of blanks and he was going to shoot Rabin with it. And this tape, the Israeli media refused to accept this tape from me. I had, in Yigal Amir's actual interrogation by the police, I left a lawyer to just put in legal documents and leave me out of it because I knew I would lose. Now, are we there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you how I knew I was going to lose.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Before I left Israel, I had a very lousy 3-4 months. A little background. When Ariel Sharon had a stroke, it was after he had a private meeting with Shimon Peres in the Knesset, where they drank tea together. And then suddenly Sharon didn't feel very well, and he was taken to the hospital by Yitzhak Rabin's actual shooter. The person who actually pulled the trigger and killed Rabin was his bodyguard, Yoram Rubin. And if you don't know this, a little later on I'll tell you how to get my book, Who Murdered Yitzhak Rabin, and you'll understand this. Sharon was taken to the hospital by Yitzhak Rabin's killer. Now, I want to add background, and it's going to confuse you people because you've never heard these names. And I'm telling you a story that Israelis all know about, and I know about, but you've never heard these names, most of you, and so you will get lost. But just soak in the evil. Just flow with the evil and forget the details. The key of the matter was that after the Rabin assassination, a lot of people in Israel knew that Yoram Rubin murdered Rabin. I had a very big book there. It was a bestseller. And I gave hundreds of lectures proving that Rubin was the actual killer. And by the way, they are filled with documentation. Now, 6 months before Sharon had his stroke after sharing tea with Peres, they announced that Yoram Rubin would be returning from Washington, where he was shipped off for his own good, to guard Sharon. And when I got hold of that news, I wrote to all my list, Sharon's a dead man. I just wrote to everyone, Sharon is finished. He'll be dead within the year. And 6 months later, he was, dead. I mean, he's in a comatose condition in the hospital after a stroke and a cerebral hemorrhage. And I guess he's just waiting for a brain transplant. He lost 30% of all his brain cells, and why they're keeping him alive is anyone's guess. And in short, we're going back to the Rabin assassination because Itamar Ben-Gvir was supposed to be the patsy for the assassination, and I had it on tape, and I had the tape of Yigal Amir explaining exactly who he thought the conspiracy was composed of, and it was turned down by the entire Israeli television media. No one showed this incredibly devastating tape.
Okay, and we're running out of time in this half hour. Boy, Barry is a character, and it's good to hear his voice again. And we're going to get back and finish with Barry Chamish in the second half hour of the Investigative Journal. So, don't you leave. Listen to the few minutes of commercials, but get back here. And we'll continue with the second half hour on the Investigative Journal.
Visit crosstheborder.org, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn, the Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, C-R-O-S-S, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This ain't happening.
Okay, that went by quickly. 3 minutes, and boy, I'll tell you something. In radio, 3 minutes can be a lifetime sometimes. And it was good to hear Barry Chamish's voice, at least for me. Look, I probably know a lot more about him than you do. I don't know if you ever listen to his show once a week on the First Amendment radio station, but you know, really a wealth of information. And Barry and I spent hours, I mean, I can't tell you how many hours on the telephone, doing radio, and I got to know him that way. Never got a chance to meet him. Never got a chance, kind of like a lot of internet people, right? You never meet them. You got a picture of them, but you never meet them. That's the sad part about the internet. I would have loved to really share some time with him, and I never got an opportunity. In fact, I didn't think he was going to die when he did, about a year. I don't know how long. It's not been long. And when I heard, I was really shocked, and I didn't do much about it. I mentioned it, and I wanted to let everything settle. And, you know, my thoughts are really after tragedy and death of people that I know that I care for. I'm not good at it. And, man, lately I'm going through a lot of it. And Barry's was another example. A lot of my friends are just leaving. I guess that's what happened when you get older. And it becomes, not the same world for me. I don't know if you know what I mean by that. And it's hard. So I think you'll understand what I mean. And somebody said, well, just make younger friends. Okay, a little levity in the light of tragedy. But anyway, while I was on the break, Slats Grobnik got a hold of me and wanted to update a little bit more. He said that he has moved his location, not where they're building, because he's got that hidden. I don't know how they do it. It's camouflage. But he wanted me to tell people not to worry. He's going to finish the project this time. And he asked me if I would keep people posted because it's a great idea. And he said, Greg, you didn't really explain the idea. So I said, okay, I will do it for people. He wants to build this Coliseum, charge Americans money to watch the New World Order people act as gladiators like they did to Christians back in the days of the Roman Empire. And he thinks that he could get a lot of people to come and cheer on. I said, Slats, you can't provoke violence. He says, I'm not provoking violence. He said, I'm just going to put them in the ring. I don't want them to do anything. They're just going to stay there until they decide that either one or the other party gets out. That's not violence. You want to know what violence is, folks? What they're doing to Christians now all over the world. That's violence. So I have no mercy on these people. And that idea that Slats has is pretty good. Let them have fun in the Coliseum. Well, we'll see if he finishes. Well, listen. Like I said, it was good to hear Barry Chamish's voice. Yes, it was. And let's get back and see what he has to say. One thing I want to say about Barry. When he was talking, go to his website, barrychamish.com. And, don't forget, we're running a pledge drive here. Go to arcticbeacon.com, and you can get shows going back over a decade. Hit the donate button. It goes directly to me, and I really need it this time. So, here's the point. Go to Barry, and I'm telling you, he's got great information about Israel. He was one of the best investigative journalists there, and boy, I learned a lot from him about what's going on in Israel, and the Vatican connections are deep, and it plays into the hand of the, people say, well, all Jews hate the Vatican. No, these are papal court Jews working for them. Here we go with Barry Chamish.
And this devastating tape named Itamar Ben-Gvir as a Shabbat agent. Now, are you following this? I know it's confusing.
Oh, go ahead. I'm following. Go ahead.
Well, this week, despite possessing a great number of documents proving that he was working not for the people that, he was supposed to be working for, which would have been the Israeli right or the settlers or the religious. He was working for the government, and a lot of people went to jail because of Itamar Ben-Gvir, and a couple of people died because of Itamar Ben-Gvir. The judge fined me $10,000, which, by the way, I will never return to Israel ever and pay him. I won't return there so he can enforce this ruling. I didn't fight the ruling now. We'll go back to what I was originally going to say. A partner of his in an organization called Kach, which is like, the JDL of Israel is called Kach. It was founded by Rabbi Meir Kahana, but it became so thoroughly infiltrated with the other side that Kahana's own son abandoned it because what he told me was that he couldn't tell the agents from the members anymore, and he left it. Another member of Kach, Itamar Ben-Gvir was a member of Kach, was someone named Avigdor Eskin. Again, we return to the Rabin murder 1 month to the day before the murder. In October of 1995, Avigdor Eskin brought 9 other gentlemen to Yitzhak Rabin's house Prime Minister's house and conducted something called the Pulsa Dinara, which was a death curse against Yitzhak Rabin. And when, of course, he died a month later, the Israeli public were reminded that Avigdor Eskin cursed him, and that's why he died. Avigdor Eskin sued me for trying to warn people to watch out for this guy. If you go near him, you're going to die. Now, I don't want to bore your listeners with the details. I will tell you this, though. I went to court with more than enough evidence to throw this out. I thought there was justice, and I just brought reams of newspaper headlines, including, by the way, Yitzhak Rabin's daughter Dalia, all claiming that this guy is working for the Shabak, for the Secret Services. And I thought the judge would understand that it wasn't my claim, that whenever I may have written this, it was months to years after it was common knowledge or commonly printed. He didn't view it that way, and I ended up getting fined. Now, a weird thing happened. You have 15 days to appeal a court case in Israel, and you're supposed to be given the records of your trial on the very day of your trial. They write it up by computer, and they print it up, and you leave with it. Eskin was given the court records, and I wasn't. I was told the computer wasn't working, and it would be mailed to me. A week later, I phoned the courts, and I said, where's my records? I have only 8 more days to do an appeal. And they said, I'm sorry, we're transferring all our records to another computer. You'll have to get the records from Mr. Eskin. I said, why would I need to get the records from Mr. Eskin? I want the records from the courts. I mean, it's absurd. I'm going to go against the plaintiff in a case against me. And she said, well, I'm just sorry. They're stuck until we transfer all our data to a new computer. So I went to an attorney, Dov Evan Orr. I told him this story. He says, this is incredibly illegal. They're preventing you from appealing this case. And he sent a fax really threatening them that we want the protocols now, send them to Mr. Chamish. They sent it to my lawyer, Dov Evan Orr is his name. And he phoned me up and he said, are you nuts? You actually told him that you deliberately printed this stuff on your websites to aggravate him? I said, what are you talking about? I told the courts I didn't have a website and that I didn't print this stuff. And he said to me, that's not what's in the court records. So I drove to the lawyers and I read the court records. And I said, no, this is not what went on in court. And I've got a witness. Now, I had a very, very lovely and girlfriend at the time for 2.5 years named Sipora. And she sat the trial. And I said, I'll phone her up. She'll sign a document that these records have been tampered with. The exact opposite of what I said became the court records. And so I phoned up Sipora, and she agreed to sign it. And Dov phones up Jerusalem to an attorney there and says, he's coming in tomorrow. It's the last day. Notarize this woman, Sipora, and quickly.
Okay, I did want to break in or mention. I just wanted to give you a flavor of what Barry was all about. He was never lost for words. And the extent he went to get to the truth about what the Israeli government and the intelligence services were doing and how Shimon Peres was a Vaticanite and what he went through in all his articles and things was just really a credit to his devotion to that country. Now, he also spent 2 years in the Israeli army and fought in some battles there, as well as when he got out as a journalist and started to get to the truth, he was almost killed in a staged car accident, and that's why he finally came over and left Israel, because he feared for his life. And to bring out just a little bit of his story about this one little particular incident in his life is a bit disjointed for the listeners, but I want to get you out and give you an impression, because I'm going to play in the future a few more of the shows, because it's important, because what's going on in Israel right now, folks? We have Trump really playing a number on everybody. And I'm telling you, they're staging something big, and the Vatican wants that country. They want to destroy Jews and Christians, and I'm telling you, much of his information is vital. But his kind of personality, man, I remember interviewing Barry, and I used to do maybe 3 to 4 hours of radio a day, and I said, I think I'll call Barry when I don't feel like talking. And the reason is that Barry could, if you started him at 8 in the morning and said, Barry, we're doing an all-day telethon radio show, he wouldn't stop for a breath until midnight. A wealth of knowledge, loved to talk, good sense of humor, good guy. Me and him used to spar a little bit. I'd kid around with him and say, Barry, who's the host of this show, me or you? And I remember once when he had his show, he wanted to reciprocate and bring me on. And I said to Barry, I emailed him, and I said, man, Barry, if you bring me on, I won't get a word in edgewise. And I was just joking with him. I didn't go on the show. And the reason I didn't is because to me it was always me, the interviewer, him, the guy that really stuck his neck out and did a lot. So I just wanted to give you a little backdrop of Barry Chamish. And he passed away not long ago. And I'm happy to bring his voice back to you today.
And we have to file an appeal. I did all that. Philip faxed the court and said the last day of the appeal is tomorrow. Mr. Chamish is coming in with a notarized document saying that the court records are completely fabricated. Now, I do this, I go to the lawyer, I get fabricated, I get it notarized. I go to the court building, and I take out the appeal, and the woman in the office, the secretarial office, says, we have notice from the judge that your file is closed, you cannot make the appeal, he turned down your appeal. And I said, what are you talking about? I haven't submitted my appeal. I was holding in my hands. I hadn't submitted to the court. She said, your attorney faxed yesterday that you were coming, and the judge ruled that if there was a mistake in the court records, it was from the court recorder. And he has no say over what goes into the court records if the court recorder records them wrongly. I said, what are you talking about? He's a judge. He has a lot of say. She said, don't even bother submitting an appeal. The judge has ruled against you. And I said, he can't rule against an appeal that hasn't been submitted. And she said, well, in this case he did. You know, unlike the people who wait 10 years for a judgment, I get my judgment even before I submit an appeal. Instant justice. In other words, I could not defeat the Israeli judicial system. They were going to screw me. It was done on purpose. All of what I went through was to hush me up and shut me up and make my life impossibly miserable. And just when I thought it ended, that I was living in Florida with my lovely wife and things were getting better, well, another trial, and it makes front page news in Israel. You know, I was on a radio interview in Denver when I heard about this judgment. They did Israeli news from Israel. I'm listening to the news, and there I am. I'm the first item on the news that I have been fined by the courts for calling Itamar Ben-Gvir a Shabak agent. That was first on Israel National News, and I first heard about it by listening to Israeli news while I was on a radio interview, uncannily enough, and we spent the next hour talking about this. But that's what happened in Israel. I'm still a big enough name in that country that I make the news. sent something out. Did you get it?
Yes, go ahead.
Did you read it?
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
That puts me at a kind of a disadvantage. Well, I sent out the article about this judgment, and I sent out, a previous article I had written about Itmar Ben-Gvir. And in short, Barry Chamish, who now officially I can't go back to Israel because I would have to pay off a Secret Service agent, and I won't do that. I actually will not go there, even though they tried to kill me, and I had a very miserable few months. This judgment actually ticks me off even more, that I have to pay a slime ball who has hurt so many people and sent so many people into prison. I'm not going to give him the money.
Well, good for you. You should. But it just shows you how they're trying to still shut you up, and you're not even in Israel anymore.
Isn't it uncanny? Yeah, I know that. I'll tell you, you don't think you have influence. And I certainly feel that way all the time, that I don't have actual influence. And then the trouble they went to this week to publicize me, to hush me up and to shut me down. I have a terrible cough today, and I apologize for this. I'm actually in my medicine cabinet getting a cough drop so I can be better on your show. But you're absolutely right. The fact that after a year and a half in America, they would put me back in the headlines means, what do you know? I actually do have influence. I just don't feel it.
Right, well, how much was the judgment again?
$10,000 plus court costs.
Okay. Wow. Very interesting. So anyway, Barry, why don't you get, do you have any more you want to say about this? Or?
No, I think we summarized it pretty well. I got a cough drop in me. I should be really more vocal. What were you thinking of?
I was thinking this. I wanted to get back to basically telling the American people exactly what's going on amongst the leaders of Israel. You know how we talk about how our leaders in America have been corrupted, working together with this one world government idea. Tell us how Israel fits into the picture.
Well, for some reason, this New World Order has decided that Israel has to go. And the Oslo Accords of 1993 was the first stage of the end of Israel. You got to remember, way back in 1993, there was no PLO in Israel. They were in Tunisia. There weren't any Palestinian armies. There was no Hamas. And for that matter, there was absolutely no political opposition to Israel. Israel brought back the PLO. Now, you may have forgotten this. I think a lot of people have forgotten this. Until September of 1993, there were no PLO or Hamas in Israel. They were gone. Israel actually brought them back. And worse, by the way, they supplied them with our machine guns. We gave them M16s and Kalashnikovs and supplied them with millions of rounds of ammunition. And that, by the way, was Shimon Peres' idea. By the way, if I repeat the name Peres, remember, he's president of Israel today. Now, anyone knows that if you bring back Yasser Arafat and the PLO and give them weapons and millions of rounds of ammo, they're going to kill Jews. You don't have to be a genius to know that that's what's going to happen. Anyone can tell you that's what's going to happen, except the Israeli government. The Israeli government brought back the PLO and armed them, and they started killing Jews. All of a sudden, Israel had suicide bombers. You didn't know where the next tragedy would be. You've had 10,000 casualties since 1993 Jews. Now, I get people writing me about, this is so absurd, about all the Palestinian casualties of the Israeli Defense Forces. It's absolutely stupid. There have been 10,000 Israeli casualties. And previous to bring the PLO into Israel, on a bad year, you had maybe 50 casualties. Maybe. All of a sudden you had 500 in 1 year. The next year you had 1,000. This year with the rockets, by the way, just in the region of Sderot and Ashkelon, you've got more people suffering wounds. And by the way, they haven't really hit their targets like the Hezbollah did during the Lebanon War of 1996. But nonetheless, Israel is a nightmare today because the Israeli government voluntarily brought back the PLO. Now, it makes no sense. Nobody in their right mind is going to bring back your worst enemy and arm them unless you were committed to destroying Israel. And this is what I've been trying to tell people, that Israel is run by and ruled by the New World Order. There are two main headquarters, diplomatic headquarters. There's plenty of others, but we're just talking diplomacy right now. In the United States, the Council on Foreign Relations is running Israel's.
You know what? I'm going to keep you in suspense because we're going to bring Barry back tomorrow. It's getting good here. And I think you'll enjoy it. You're getting the inside story of how the Israeli government controls its people like the American government does. The American government, is funding terrorism. The Israeli government is funding terrorism against its own citizens, similar to what we do. Interesting. You Jesuit boys know what you're doing, don't you? Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.